Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Redesign Your Life Today. I'm Daniel Kobryner, your host, and I'm a mental fitness coach. And this podcast, it's about transformation. It's about telling stories of people who really experience big changes in their lives and want to transmit these changes and help others doing the same. And today I've got a very special guest, and I'm really very pleased, to receive Kisha Moore on this podcast. Kisha is a digital event strategist, and she's the founder of Rolling with KK. She helps organizations design and deliver events that actually work for real people in real bodies. And it means that accessibility for her, it's not an add-on, it's infrastructure. And Kisha helps as well people understanding that inclusivity should be the norm, should be for everyone. Everybody who feels excluded, listen to this interview because you are going to hear some wonderful insights. And now, without further ado, uh, again, Kisha, the floor is yours. And Kisha, I would like you to tell us about who you are. Who is Kisha? What is her story? And where and why does she do what she does now?
Hey, well, first of all, thank you, Daniel, for having me. I appreciate it so much. For my visual or low vision people, I am an African American female. I am wearing a short haircut. I have a shirt on that has like green and yellow and white polka dots. I am short, round, and low to the ground and very comfortable in my body today. So as you all can see, I blend accessibility into everything. It's not an afterthought for me. It is something I believe everybody should mean everybody. And basically, how that started is probably about 5 years ago. I woke up one morning with a cough, thought I had COVID, went to the emergency room, and discovered that I had blood clots in both of my lungs. And that's what made me become disabled. Laid in bed for about a week. My back was like, I don't like this. So now I have mobility issues. That's really where the name Rolling with Kiki came from because I roll around on a mobility scooter. It's my trusty steed. It's my adult big wheel. Only I can call it that. But it's what helps me get around and navigate through the world. That was for sure my defining moment, my turning point in my life because I do get around in a bigger body, but I was able to get around like on my own two legs. Having to rely on a mobility device really changed the way that the world looks. Obviously, because I'm sitting down, I'm no longer standing up. It's not like I'm tall anyway, I'm only 5'2", so it kind of shortened me a little bit and it gave me a different view of the world and a different view of how people view other people with accessibilities. Like I have to get wheelchair service when I'm in the airport because I can't walk long distances. I can't stand for a long time. As I'm doing meetings, I'm always looking for properties that they either have an electronic door or they have that push button so you can push to open the door because I've been on properties where I have to try to struggle with my scooter opening the door or depending upon the kindness of strangers. So that was my turning point and it really just totally changed my outlook. Not that I was not always concerned about accessibility, but I have become an advocate, not just for myself, but other people who can't or won't speak up for themselves. So
Wow.
yeah, that's a little bit.
Yeah, this is a beautiful story. So when this happened, how did it change your view of the outside world, Kisha?
um, People are not as kind as you would think them to be. Because I live at we talk about you hear about intersectionality a lot. So again, I get around in a bigger body. I am a Black woman. I am now a disabled woman, and I'm from the South. So it's like all these things that are supposed to be working against me, and I've been used to the stairs and different things, but it made me realize just how unkind the human race can be.
Hmm.
At points, it used to be, people were looking at me as I'm being wheeled through the airport. And of course, you make up stories about yourself. There's this whole thing about internalized ableism. I'm not even going to get into that because that's another podcast by itself. But you make up all these stories. And then, for me, it's like, oh, are they looking at me because, I'm a bigger woman? Or are they looking at me because I'm in this wheelchair? Are they thinking, oh, well, she's being pushed around because of her size? It's like, no, like I can walk. But then, I had to talk to myself like, why do you care? Are you not getting from point A to point B? So I started staring back. So it's like created a boldness in me that
Hmm.
was there, but it just like really rose up because it's like I'm doing the exact same thing that you do. I'm trying to get to gate whatever to go wherever it is because I still love to travel. And as a matter of fact, I've traveled more after my disability than I did before. So there's nothing that is stopping me. But it really gave me a different view of how we treat each other.
Exactly. No, this is so powerful. And you see the fact that, you traveled more, you did. I mean, basically, you said, right, okay, this is my condition, and I'm going to live the best life I can, and I'm going to shine to this world as well, and I'm not going, to take offense of what people say or think, because in a way, this is them. It's nothing to do with you. It's them reflecting their own childhood trauma, their fears or their prejudices. But tell me how kind of spiritually this experience changed you.
It definitely deepened my relationship with God. I mean, living in the South, what we refer to as the Bible Belt in the United States. I'm in North Carolina. My mother is a preacher. So, like all of the things, but it deepened my relationship because it made me realize like this is a part of my story, but not my full story. This is just a chapter. Like God has me no matter what, whether, if I'm rolling around, if I'm limping around, if I'm walking around. I've actually used it to, encourage other people like, hey, if I can get up and, roll through the airport and roll over at this hotel and do, all of the things with the way I am, you have two good legs, or you have, whatever, get up and do it. And then I firmly believe, that God, I'm not saying that He causes things, but He allows us to use things to like motivate ourselves, like, girl, you got this. Like, okay, so what, you have to use a scooter? He made a way for you to get a scooter. So it just really made me more thankful. And then I still remember the the chaplain that came the first day, of course, you land in the hospital, you have all these tubes and things up your nose and out of your arms, and obviously you're gonna feel sorry for yourself. But the prayer that chaplain prayed, it awoke something in me, and it's like, yes, like we got this, we can do this. God is behind me all the way. So I just use, my condition as a testimony and a testament to what God can do, because of course we all know the stories in the Bibles where He used people that were quote unquote others. So it's like, hey, I'm one of his spokespeople. I'm one of his billboards. So it's definitely deepened my relationship with God.
So beautiful to hear that, because obviously when we know, I mean, if we have faith and we know that in life there are no coincidences, everything's happening for a reason. And the question is, why is it this in my life? What is it here to show me? And when you start looking at that instead of thinking, why is it happening to me? Because then you leave your power away to something else, to someone else. But when you realize this is how really you can grow and you can become a different human being.
Yes, for sure.
Does this resonate with you? Yeah.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I am definitely not the same person that I was 5 years ago. I mean, I'm not even the same person that I was a year ago because I keep evolving, I keep moving, I keep rolling, for lack of a
Exactly.
better word.
And you see what is very beautiful to hear is your energy. You see this energy you have. This is palpable, we can feel it. And and this is so nice for everybody to listen to, because obviously adversity happens, but it's what do we make of that? What do we make of that? Because you could have said, "Oh wow, it's terrible," and just letting me go, and then what would have happened? Difficult. But you decided, right? Okay, this is what I'm going to do, and now tell us about your activities, Kisha. So what are you doing? I mean, how are you helping people? Which kind of people? Which kind of companies? Tell us about your activities.
Oh gosh, my activities, I'm all over everywhere. Obviously, doing event planning, just branching out, really like ramping up my event planning business. I work with organizations of all types, but I really work with those who they kind of sort of know like this is what we should be doing, this is the way that we should be going, but they really don't know like how to get it all together. I am an encourager even in my business life. My name means joy. So my mother knew what she was doing when she named me that, but really just going in and giving businesses like a pause because sometimes you're moving at the speed of light and you don't know what you don't know. Case in point, I had a young lady that she had a gluten insensitivity, and I was like literally stalking her every day at the buffet. Is this okay? Is that okay? Do you need anything else? She's like, oh, the first day she was like, no, I'll be fine. I have my pills. I'm gonna have a headache, and it's like nobody gets sick on my watch. Like I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do. So really just imparting that to other businesses because at the end of the event, she actually sent me an email and she said, because of you, I am now going to advocate more fiercely for myself. So really that's what it's about is teaching people how to create those avenues, create those events where they can walk in and it's like, yes, I belong here. Whether it's a birthday party or, a corporate event or just, coffee, whatever. I never want anyone to walk into any place that I'm responsible for and feel like I have to leave because I don't belong here. Because again, I know what that feels like. So yeah. Hopefully that, I didn't ramble on too much about that.
No, no, no. It's very nice. And is it the events? Are they just in-person events or they are online events as well?
They're in-person events as well as digital events. Hence the reason why I introduce myself the way that I do. That actually came from a very close personal friend of mine who I refer to as the godmother of events, Joan Eisenstadt. I heard her introduce herself that way, and it's like because we just automatically think that everybody is able to see or they're able to hear, or they're able to do the quote unquote normal things. So also with their webinars, teaching them like, hey, introduce yourself, describe yourself, make sure that the captions are on. If you're doing in-person events, having an actual interpreter. Nothing against the AI translation, but it just doesn't catch everything. Like, for instance, with your accent, which is beautiful, by the way, you're saying one thing, but AI may hear something else. And if I'm reading the caption, it's like, he said what? So just, thinking of the things that just really make everyone feel welcome and included is like I'm that person. Call me, I'll help. I promise.
Thank you so much. And see, when we talk about fears, all right, one of the biggest fears, there were studies which were done, is fear of public speaking, speaking in public, right? Now,
Yes.
obviously, particularly if you feel isolated, this must be a big fear for a lot of people. So, how do you help people kind of overcome this fear?
The fear of public speaking. I actually have a funny story about that.
Yeah,
As I
please.
said, I grew up in church, and my pastor at the time, we would do, devotional service. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but you had two people, one person standing on each side of the table. There was a table in between. You'd sing a song, you'd read a scripture, and then people would stand up to give their testimonies.
Okay.
So I started out like I was 4 or 5 years old, and I was made to stand up there and do devotional service. Like, and all I had to do was like sing a song or read the Bible, whatever the case may be. But I cried the entire time because I was so scared. And I realized that was training for me being able to do what I do now. You would never think that I would be afraid to speak in public, but I used to be long, long time ago. I share that to say, do it afraid. Even if you think your voice may be shaking, even if you think you're like, oh my God, like I'm not making sense, if you're passionate about whatever it is that you're speaking about, it could be anything from event planning to needlepoint or anything in between. You may be shaky at the beginning, but that passion and that joy and like whatever it is that you're speaking about, it's going to come out and people are going to feel it. Like, I have dreams one day of wanting to be on a TEDx stage. Put it out there right now. I do have dreams of wanting to be on a TEDx stage talking about accessibility, rolling in with my scooter, maybe having fireworks and things like that going off. But the Bible tells us not to fret, fret not about small beginnings. So it's like, start out small. Go speak at your kid's school. Go speak at, a woman's event or a male event. Just if public speaking is what you want to do, you can do it. And it's like anything else, it's like a muscle. Exercise it. Like, I refer to myself as the mouth of the South because I love to talk, but it has not always been that way. So practice, practice, practice. Jump on a Zoom with me. You can talk to me. Literally, I will make time if somebody wants to talk. Like, I'll just sit here and listen. It's practice. Or find a friend. Hey, I think I want to talk about this. Can we hop on the Zoom? You're going to be looking. Make sure your camera is on. It's little things that you don't think about. That next thing you know, you're ready for a TEDx stage.
It's wonderful. And you see, when I listened to you, Kisha, two things came to mind. I mean, first, you mentioned a word which is so important, is passion. Be passionate about what you do. Are you familiar with the expression which is called Ikigai? Does it ring a bell?
Yes,
Yes, all right.
yes.
So for our listeners who don't know that, Ikigai is a Japanese word which means purpose of life or reason for being. And what is it? Imagine four quadrants. And the first one would be, okay, what do you love doing? What's your passion? What makes you, go wake up in the morning and really be excited of doing something? The second quadrant would be, what are you good at? What are your God-given talents? And again, it's not about praising yourself. It's about if you ask your friends, your family, what do you think Keisha is good at? She's good at that and that. So it's really things where we bring something different. And the third, so what do we love doing? What we are good at doing? The first point is, what does the world need? How can we help? It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be coaching, it could be anything. It's just like, what can we bring? Something which is above ourselves. And the last point is, how can we be paid for that? And paid, it can be money, but it can be as well rewarded. Imagine we are older, we work for a charity, we help people, and then it's like, wow, I've helped people. So imagine when you cross these four sections about what you love doing, what you're good at doing, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for, the crossing the intersection is called the Ikigai. This is the purpose of life. And this is and this purpose can change in your life, yeah? Because obviously
Hmm.
we have different circumstances, but when we live that, when we live this passion, this is really where we can give the best of ourselves. How does this resonate with you, Kisha?
It's ironic because I just did one last week. I went through this clarity challenge. It was a 7-day clarity challenge, and I already knew what it was going to say. Like, my purpose is hospitality. The Bible speaks about hospitality. So that is my purpose because there's so much negativity, there's so much ugliness, there's just so much in the world. So that is my purpose, is being able to bring people together. I am good at it because I am organized. I think I see things and already have an answer for it before something breaks. I can get paid for it. And it's like, we need more events because we know that, gatherings, we're going to have to get back to that community based level of care with the way things are going. So you need somebody who can step in and be like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is why we're doing it. And this is what needs to happen when we bring together group A, group B, or group C. And that's me. That's where I come in. Because there is a passion for it. I've been doing it for 20 plus years, and it's not just for money. I do it for church events. I do it for, friends and things like that, because I just know the power of the human connection. And there's an organized way that doesn't lose the authenticity that everybody can't offer. And it's like, hello, hi, I'm here. So that is my God-given purpose.
Wow, this is amazing, and you see, I relate very much to this, Kisha, because obviously we've got this like pyramid of needs, where first we need to have a roof and we need to feel safe, and then afterwards, we need some connections. But afterwards, it's really where when we go to the top, we need to be able to, people call about self-realization. It's about what can we really bring to the world because really we were blessed by God or the universe, and how can we give?
Yes.
And what is really very linked to that is community. How can we find a community? How can we create a community, or how can we belong to a community of like-minded and like-spirited people? And when we do that, this is really where we really feel fulfilled in a way. Does it
Yes.
resonate with you?
Yes, it does. I'm actually, I'm a part of a couple of different communities. The group that I just was doing last week, it's called Black Woman Bliss. Run by a very good friend of mine. Her name is Mercedes Swan. Shout out Mercedes. But it's, she created this community, and find your tribe, find your people. Like your people are out there. To where I can go, you can go, you can just exhale, and you don't have to put on all the pretense, and nobody cares if you're disabled, or they don't care if you're black, or they don't care if you're white or male or female or whatever. It's just a bunch of people getting together like, hey, I just need to exhale for a minute. And it makes you feel good. And not only when you join the community, you have to make sure that you're not there just to take, but that you're also giving, because there are a lot of takers in the world. And I'm such a giver, so I've had to find, you know that balance, but make sure that you're giving as well as being able to receive. And that's where the fulfillment, for me, that's where the fulfillment comes in.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. This is so profound again. And you see, giving and even receiving, it's very interesting because when we receive, there's a big difference if we receive for ourselves or we receive in order to help others. And
Mm,
you talk about takers, takers, they are never fulfilled. Something's always missing because it's about themselves. It's quite a low energy. Now, when you really receive in order to give, in order to help, and when you give without expectation, this is a secret as well. Giving,
mm,
not expecting anything, not being a people pleaser, just giving and hoping that others are going to love you. No, because then again, you do it from a place of lack rather than a place from abundance. But when you do it from your heart, with your generosity, not only are you going to make people happy, but the universe sees everything which you do. And oh God, you know what? And you are going to give to get more because it is shown that whatever you get, you want to share.
yes, yes. I am definitely a firm believer in that. And ironically enough, you mentioned in people pleasing, that was another, transformation of me, of going from a people pleaser to just, that kindness, because there is a difference between niceness and kindness. And I believe niceness is tied to people pleasing. But it was like that was freeing for me, because I'm not, and not that that was my purpose of being a people pleaser, but it was from a low self esteem. So, once I really sat with, this is who God made me to be, this is who I'm supposed to be, I don't have to force myself on anybody. It just really opened me up to be, free to be the Keisha that I've always been. I'm not buried by other people's opinions, and I can speak freely and move freely. It was just really a freeing process. And it's like, oh, I'm not as much of a people person as I thought I was. And it's like, you are, but you're not people pleasing anymore. It's
Exactly.
a
And
difference.
actually, you see, and of course, I mean, this was, you see, and you mentioned something which is so important there. See, I mentioned that what I'm doing, I'm a mental fitness coach. What does it mean? I help people understanding the saboteurs, these inner voices
Mm.
which are ingrained in their mind and they think it's me, but actually it's not. It's all programs which we learn from a very young age and which are kind of being imprinted in our subconscious mind. And we know that 95% of our thoughts come from the subconscious mind. They come automatically. We are not even aware of that. So what happens is, for instance, some of these saboteurs, one of them is a people pleaser. Where does it come
Mhm.
from? These saboteurs always comes from a strength. which you acquired as a very young child. And you said it's about kind. Oh, yes, I'm being kind. And it's good to be kind. You learn, you see that your parents are happy when you are kind and they teach you, so you are kind. Now,
Mhm.
what happens is afterwards, we take this strength and we abuse and overuse them like people pleaser. I want to be kind, but subconsciously you expect people to do something for you and to love you back. And when they don't do, you resent it, but you don't tell them and you do it further. And every time you go more, so it's really about realizing that, to give you some other example, I mean, perfectionism. It is a
Ah,
saboteur, and I can tell you, I was a big one, Kisha. When I realized that I wasted a lot of time in my life, a lot of energy for nothing, and I realized, and I followed this program. It's about positive intelligence, and I realized that now I can do things. If I'm like 80% ready, I'm going for that. Before, I would have waited, to get all the things right to do that. So
yes.
you see, and one of the big teachings for everybody listening is that if sometimes you really want to do something and you think you are not ready, well, the bad news is you are never going to be ready. So it means that if you are already, say, 80% ready, go take action. And as soon as you take action, this is when the things are going to unfold. This is where your worries are going to go away. Okay, sometimes you don't have exactly the results you want to have. You change the course. But it's taking action which is going to bring you clarity and confidence. And it's not the other way around.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I think about for years, like, oh, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, and I don't want to work for myself, and all of the things. But circumstances happened, and things shifted. But the way that God had it worked out. I was already working on a website. Did not know why I was working on a website. I'm like, what do I need a website for? But it was like all these things were happening and being put in place. And when that thing happened, I still wasn't ready. But it's like, hey, it's now or never. Like it's now or never, and things are going to fall into place. And I think you're talking about the perfectionism, and it's like I have this you pretty much confirmed it, but I've always said that the issues and the isms and the schisms that we have, they don't start when we're 30 or 40 or 50. These are things that we have grown up with. For me growing up in a single parent home, my dad not being there, that's where that need for loving and please accept me. And if I'm nice enough and I'm kind enough, and then that followed me into my first marriage where, it was an abusive marriage, but I'm like, if I love him enough, and I just got to love him harder, and I just got I got to cook better, and I got to clean better, and all of the things that self-sabotaging, and then even into being a parent and thinking that my identity is tied up into being a parent. And thank God for therapy. I have this I have this saying, talk to Jesus and a trained professional. But it's like no, like all of these things that I thought were tied up, that were a part of my identity. It's like that, on Shrek, like peeling the onion, like I had to start peeling the layers to basically my transformation was finding out after all of the stuff, after all of the gunk and the junk and the self-sabotaging, who in the heck was Lakesha Moore? And I'm still figuring that out, but I can say that I'm a heck of a lot happier and I have a heck of a lot more joy putting down the things that I thought and other people's thoughts that they put on me, but it's like, now who do you think you are?
Exactly, exactly. Thank you so much for sharing. And you see, again, for everybody's listening, really, it's fascinating, but it's really life. It's life. It's like if anybody here, and it could be the case, is in an abusive relationship, get away from that. You know what? I mean, just, of course, you try your best, but afterwards, what you know is you cannot change the person. You can't change somebody who doesn't want to change. This is really life. So, of course, you try, you give it your best, but afterwards, you've got really to realize that the way people react to your partner or friends who abuse you or whatever, again, it's nothing to do with you. It's them. It's their stories. It's their childhood trauma. Perhaps they were treated a certain way by their parents. And
Yes.
but you know what they do is, and something fascinating. I learned only a few years ago. It's like the first 7 years of your life shape you completely, because in these first 7 years, you are like in hypnosis. You are in a theta brain wave. So you take everything in, you register, and the emotions as well without filter. So for you, this is the truth. This is what it is. You know, what you hear from your parents, if they tell you that this person is bad, okay, this is it. And it takes time afterwards and what happens is we continue with this behavior, in the rest of our lives. So very often we are surprised because, oh, we have the same kind of relationships, same boyfriend, same girlfriend, same things, even if it's a different person. But you know what? Same characteristic. And you think, how come? Because what happens is we don't attract who we want, we attract who we are. And basically, as we
Mm,
vibrate at a certain emotional levels, we are going to attract people. It's all about vibrations who kind of vibrate at the similar level. So the only way to change is to change ourselves. If we want to
yes,
change around ourselves, we need to become the change ourselves. You said as well, the way we talk to ourselves, if we just say, oh, I'm bad, I messed up, and all that, the universe listens to that and says, okay, this is a decree. So if this is what you say, you're going to get more of that. Now, if you start affirmations, right, I'm a good person, and I do things, and I'm valuable, I'm worth it. It might feel strange, but the more you do, the more you are going to imprint your subconscious mind, and things are going to change.
yes, for sure. And I have my mom to thank for that. I have a younger sister. We're 7 years apart, but there's throughout the day or like throughout the week, she's like, "Hey, remember, you're a trailblazer, you're a trendsetter, you're an innovator, and you're a child of the Most High God." Like whenever I'm feeling down, it's like, okay, I'm a trailblazer, I'm a trendsetter, I'm an innovator, I'm a child of the Most High God. I can do this because that negative self-talk, it really does a number on you. And that's part of a transformation. I was having a conversation with my son, and I'm trying so hard to get him on somebody's podcast because at his young age of 21, he just has so much wisdom. But we were talking about the evolution, and that's what life is, right? It's an evolution. Like, I'm going to be 50 this year. So, no, I don't think the same way that I did when I was 40. I don't think the same way I did when I was 30 and 20 and 10. But it's like you have to evolve. You can't stay stuck. You can't stay stagnant. The world particularly is moving so fast, and it's like that I say that there's this rush to keep up, but it's like you keep up with you. Like, yes, trends are gonna come, trends are gonna go, but you have to keep evolving into, the best version of yourself. I don't know what I'm gonna look like at 59. I'm not worried about 59 right now. I'm dealing with this 49, but it's still it's every day. I try to make a habit of learning something new, whether it's a new word. I actually get a word of the day emailed to me, and then once I see it, I try to use it in a sentence at least 5 times during the day. And people are like, "What? Where did you get?" This is my growth. We're gonna like, like I don't explain why I'm doing this. Like I just try to use that word of the day, expanding my vocabulary, expanding what I read, listening to audiobooks, like things that if you would have told me I was gonna be a 50-year-old woman laying here listening to audiobooks all day, I probably would have been like, well, what's an audiobook? But just it's like just expanding, evolving, transforming. It's a daily process.
Exactly. And I love it, Kisha. And you see, I so much resonate with that. Again, anybody listening to that, you see, really, happiness doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. And there's so much we can do ourselves. And you mentioned so many of these parts. I mean, it's like the way we talk to ourselves. I mean, very important. If we start, even the way we talk about others, huh? You know what? If we gossip about others, if we are bad mouthing,
Mm.
it's coming back to us as a boomerang because all our words, they hold these vibrations and it's coming back big time. So we have to be very careful about that. And you mentioned as well being the best version of ourselves. Yes, at every moment we can change. Even if we made a mistake this morning, it's all right. You know what? We don't beat ourselves up, but we need to learn from that. How can we avoid to do the same mistake again? Now, another point you mentioned, and which is so important, is about growing. It's about learning, whatever it is, whatever we want to do, but it's about getting knowledge. And again, it's about why to become a better individual, to broaden our perspective, and when we do that, and perhaps what I would add to this as well as one of the secrets of happiness is being grateful. being grateful for who we are, the environment, even the little things, the work we can do, the sun, we wake up in the morning and you know what, we are alive and we can do things. When we realize that instead of always looking after the next shiny objects and, or goal, no, it's about being grounded, being in the present moment, living life fully and living a life of service. So does it, what's your take on this point? Did I forget anything, Kisha, about?
No, and I talk up, the gratitude piece is really big for me. Because I talk to, I'm very one speaking of being grateful, that my mother is still with us, and I talk to her like almost every day. Like I may go like maybe not 7 days a week, maybe 6 days a week. But for that, I'm grateful because I know how, different people in their relationships. But I remember telling her probably was just this week, is like, I have aches and pains, but I'm grateful that I can feel them because there's somebody laying there that's truly paralyzed that would love to feel a cramp or a headache or stomach ache. And it's like, why are you being thankful that you can feel pain? It's like, because that means that my nerve receptors are working the way
Exactly.
that God designed them to work. It's freezing cold here in North Carolina. I'm grateful to have a roof over my head. I can walk in my kitchen. I can actually get up out of my bed and walk into my kitchen to make my coffee. My son, he's 21, but he's still at home with me. He's not in those quote unquote statistics. He's a well-rounded individual. It's like, in all things, we're supposed to give thanks for, the good and the bad, because as my mother, and I quote her frequently, she's always like, with God, there's nothing wasted. Like we may not understand at the moment, but it's like, oh, that's why that happened 5 years ago. Or that's why that happened 4 years ago. And I'll tell one more personal story because I told you I'm full of them. But I remember there was a time when I was walking. I had to walk to job hunt because I didn't have a car at the time. And I was looking for a job, and I worked so hard and walked so hard that I literally sprained my foot walking up and down, getting on the bus, getting off the bus, different things like that. So then you fast forward to maybe 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, there's this organization here called Wheels for Hope that help, families who are trying to get up, they actually give you a car.
Mhm.
And so they gave me a car, talking about being grateful. I haven't had a car payment in years, but I was sitting here looking out the window at my car one day, and it popped into my head like, remember all that walking that you did? This is your reward for that. And I just, the tears just started flowing because I wasn't thinking about me doing the walking, 10 years ago. And now I got a car sitting here that's not paid for, but it just made me grateful all over again. And people like, oh, it's the material things. It's like, no, it's not the material things, but it's just being grateful for everything because there's somebody out there now that's walking in this weather. And there's somebody that they woke up in a tent, or they woke up in a shelter, or they had to sleep in their car and these freezing cold temperatures. So I every day that I wake up, when as soon as my eyes pop open, it's like, oh, thank you, Lord. Because there was a time that being so deep in depression, and I'm also a recovering alcoholic, that I wake up and it's like, oh shoot, I'm alive. Well, time to start drinking, but that's another podcast. But so it is definitely, I believe in having that attitude of gratitude for everything.
Thank you so much for sharing. And really, it's so inspiring to listen to you. I mean, this energy is absolutely fantastic. You see, energy is everything. Energy is really, it's about, you know, if we can, and it's about being. Life is not about having, it's not about doing, it's about being, and it's really about being kind of the most authentic version of yourself. And when you are that, like you are, Isha, it's so life is easy because you know what? I mean, I'm saying easy, of course it has challenges, but the way you approached it, I mean, you make the most of it, you help people, you motivate people, you organize these events, and obviously I encourage everybody listening to reach out to Keisha because you see, I mean, it's rare to find such an energy. So, and obviously, which means that whenever there are challenges, of course they will be overcome because there's always a way.
Yeah, and it's just, I know that, with God, with my family, with the community that I built, that, whatever challenges pop up, like I'm going to get through them. I just, I refuse to believe anything else. And, people are like, oh, you're being delusional. And I'm like, okay, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I call it having faith. I definitely call it having faith. And that's, every day I just have the faith that things are going to work out. And if they don't work out, hey, there's a deeper purpose for that. And we're just going to keep moving.
It's exactly that. And you see, one thing when we have faith, is that which was not always the case for me. So it's why I evolved over the last few years. This is quite interesting story, but I mean, story of development. But I realized that when we really have this aim, this desire, this burning desire, which is obviously related to a bigger purpose, to be of service, to help people. We shouldn't worry too much about how it's going to happen. We should just go, right? And afterwards,
Yes,
let's trust the process, and I would say let's trust the universe. And and
for
and when
sure.
you say it's that, and what happens is by doing that, it will prevent us from worrying, which is actually worrying. It's about thinking about the future over things over which we don't have control anyway. So, when we realize we really do the best over what we have control and the rest, let's see. But you see, and not being attached to an outcome as well. Because if we are too fixated on an outcome and it doesn't happen, it will just bring disappointment. So let's do things. Let's go full in, and afterwards, let's see. But really with grace and gratitude.
For sure. For sure.
So, look, it's been fascinating talking to you, Kisha, and we could have done it for a very long time, of course. But now I mean, my last question would be if there are three tips you would like to leave our listeners to, what would it be?
Very first one, and I actually just shared this with my sister and a couple of other people. Remember, it's okay to not be okay. I am not a person for toxic positivity. Yes, I do believe in being positive, but I also believe in not lying to myself or other people when I'm not okay. Feel the feelings, if you have to smash something or whatever the case might be, yes, it's okay, but don't stay there.
Yeah.
That's where the transformation, continues. Like, yeah, like, hey, I don't know what was going on with me even yesterday. And it was like, you know what? I stayed in bed all day on yesterday, but you can't tell today. Why? Because it's a new day. It's like yesterday is gone. Um, Also realizing your body is not the obstacle
Mm.
that you think that it is. Again, this is coming from someone who, I've never really been quote unquote skinny or the average body size. My body is not the obstacle. It may appear to be that way for other people. And again, that's a them problem. That is not a Keisha problem. I'm going to keep on rolling. So whatever condition you may find yourself, your body in, your body is not the obstacle. And I'm trying to think the third thing. Hmm. You don't have to become someone brand new for a transformation to take place, because there are things in me that, yes, I've learned and I've evolved, but there are things in me that I always wanted to remain the same. My kindness, like, I don't want my kindness to ever go away, my actual heart for people, but I've just built upon those things that unfortunately you can't extend yourself to everybody, because there are people who are going to take advantage of it, or you get the discernment like, well, yeah, I know they're kind of using me, but you know what, I'm gonna let God deal with them. So it's like there are things that are your core pillars, your core essence of who you are. You don't have to transform all of that. It's more really, the Bible speaks about the renewing of the mind, and that's really what it is. And that's all I have for the folks.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, this is, thank you for this sharing this wisdom. And yeah, of course, it's okay not to be okay. And it's about not suppressing our emotions. They are there. Okay, as you said, we live them, and afterwards we let go because they will go. But if we try to suppress them, it doesn't work. They will
They're
get
gonna.
stuck in our body, and this is what creates diseases, mental diseases, physical diseases, etc. So this is so powerful. And so, Kisha, when people want to work with you, contact you, what's the best way? What's Is it
The,
website?
the
Is
best
it
way is probably reach out to me on my website, which is rollingwithkiki.com. That is probably the best
rollingwithkiki.com? Exactly,
dot
and
com.
we'll have it in
Yes.
the notes as well. Huh? So,
Yes, you can get to my LinkedIn from there. You can get to my newsletter from there. If you just want to reach out and say, "Hey," that's fine as well. Because again, Southern Belle, that Southern hospitality. Because I'm just here. I really am here to help others. And as you say, sometimes the getting paid it's not a financial. Although we do like cash, but it's that sense of just I helped another human being. I may have actually made another person's day, because there's a quote and I can't remember who said it, but it's like changing the world starts with changing the view of one person or changing the life of one person. So if I've helped one person, I'm
exactly.
good.
Exactly. If we had one person with one little thing, and you see something which I had in mind, and now it just I remember, when I was talking about public speaking as well, that a tip I heard once, which I really valued, it was if you are talking in front of an audience, if you can make one person aware of one little thing which is going to change their mind, this is it. So remember that when you speak, it's not about you. It's about the other person. And when you realize, even if it's not perfect, it's not a problem. It's not about you. It's about being of service. And
Yes.
just one thing, I mean, for because I spoke about these saboteurs, which could be perfectionist, controller, people pleaser, etc. So I've got on my website, which is danielkobryner.com, I've got a free assessment there. You can take it, it's free. And there are the 9 saboteurs, which, they're as well hyper vigilant, hyper achiever, etc. You take this test. It's only 5 minutes. You reply to certain questions, and afterwards you will be sent a kind of a summary of where you are with a mark from 0 to 10 on each of the saboteurs. And it's very interesting. And I offer even a free debrief afterwards for people who are interested in that, because it's when you realize this is how you can change a lot of things in your mind. So danielcobrina.com. And so, look, thank you so much, Kisha. Thank you for everybody who was with us. I hope you enjoyed this very special session today. And I will see you at the next episode. Thank you. Bye bye.